高兴. I'm very happy to, we have some of the English ministry folks, so I'll use English. Happy to be able to share something. But before I share, I want to show a video, a 2-minute video that Chen Zheyi, where's Zheyi? Oh, there she is, Zheyi. She is our Taiwan music ambassador. And she's going to be the co-director of the Worship and Music Conference at Montreat Conference Center next summer in Montreat, North Carolina, which is where I used to serve, and it's a huge conference center. And this Worship and Music Conference is quite wonderful. So now we're going to see a 2.5-minute video where Jay and her co-director introduce the conference. And I hope some of you can come. So, and I want to thank, let's all thank Yogi. He's been a wonderful help to me.
Hi everyone, I'm Lynn Levins, and it's my privilege and pleasure to serve as co-director for the PAM Music and Worship Conference in 2024. I am Zheyi Chen, and I'm also happy to serve as a co-director for this conference next week. Our theme is a lead us forward. We are exploring the idea of hope and of what that may mean to each of us. Home as a bird you will home, or bird you will home and leaves now. Home as an earth, or heaven, or our bodies. Perhaps you feel like you've come home when you drive through the Montreat Gate. We'll explore the concept of home through the Psalms of Ascent and several narrative scripture passages. Leading us in worship will be Martha Moore-Kish, preacher, and Sally McKinsey, editor of Call to Worship, will be our liturgist. We'll again have a full service musicians, Montel organist, Rodrigo Almeida, tourist, and our artist is a renowned Catholic Catholic. Without any lecturers, she hoped in to close her off as a real song. And the singers will be led by people like the missionary John McCall. Recitalists are Bernhard Compton, and the founding director of the Atlanta Football Forum, Dormo. And here's a quick introduction to our ensemble directors. Leading handbells, David Harris, director of the Raleigh Bringers. And leading the choirs will be Mark Patterson, children, Emily Floyd, Midlers, Grammy Award-winning music educator Jeffrey Reddy, senior high, and the adult choirs will be led by Grant Floyd. So we hope you spread the word, ensure you come, and bring with you friends of every age and stage to this intergenerational conference. We look forward to seeing you next year. May all roads lead us homeward with peace and great joy.
So if you'd like to learn more about the conference, you can talk to Jay. She's, for the first time in that auditorium, that huge auditorium that holds a lot, over 1,000, I heard Taiwanese being sung this year because of Jay. So that was really warmed my heart. My former place of service, I got to hear Taiwanese being sung. So anyway, talk to Jay if you'd like to learn more about that conference. Thank you. I'm going to share, I've been back in the U.S. since January. Every 4 years, this year it's 5 years because of COVID, I come and I visit supporting churches, both American churches and Taiwanese American churches around the U.S. I've been in 26 churches in 17 states, and this is my last time. Then I go back to Taiwan a week from Monday. So, 回去我的家. And what I'm going to show you is the PowerPoint that I've been showing in all the American churches that I visit. And this is how I introduce Taiwan. Now, 你们是台湾人, so you can grade me. Do I do a good job of presenting Taiwan or not? But I love talking about Taiwan in the American churches. And I'm also, during this, I've written 4 books, but the first book I found 4 at my house in Black Mountain. So I brought 4, and we're gonna stop in between and have a question. If you get the question right, you get a book. Okay, the first question is, what is my favorite place in Taiwan? Just guess. Yeah, Hualien. Where in Hualien? Where? Yeah, you're right, but where in Hualien? 不是鲤鱼潭。Tailuk, okay, you get the first one. I love Taiwan, but actually I also love Taiwan. So this is the view from the house that I live in on the seminary campus. And Yannan and Lulu used to live right across the street from here. I lived across the street from them, I guess. They lived there longer. But now they've moved down into the city, so I miss their light and their company. But anyway, this is the beauty of, we've had beautiful sunsets. Last year we had some beautiful sunsets. Let's see here. And then I let Americans know the beauty of the East Coast. You know, Taiwan is such a, I mean, it really is Formosa. You know, I'd never been to Taiwan when I went there to start to serve in 1996. And I got there, and at first I lived at Dongmenjiahui in Taipei, right in the middle of the city. And I didn't have a car, I didn't know how to, I didn't even know there was a national park at Yangmingshan. And then I got called to Taidong to live in Daidang. And wow, I love, uh-oh. Uh-oh. Here, there's Yogi, he can get it. Okay, anyway, and this is called the Stone Umbrella. And this is in Taidong. And it was very interesting. Last August, Nancy Pelosi came to Taiwan on a Friday, or she left on a Friday. Saturday, I took the train to Amezhonghui, to a church, and I spoke to their presbytery in Taidong. And then Sunday, after I preached, a couple took me, an Amis couple took me to snorkel in this beautiful water with their 3 children. And the sky was so beautiful. But that was the same time when Chinese missiles were flying over us. We couldn't see them. We couldn't see them, but we knew they were there. And it was a very strange feeling to be sitting on this stone in the beauty of that place, with the beauty of those people, but also realizing that the weapons of war were not far. So that was a very sobering day. And I tell Americans, Taiwanese don't get their wedding pictures taken on their wedding day. They do it a month before the wedding. And if you've arranged for your wedding picture day and it's pouring rain, you can't change. You still have to have your picture taken in the pouring rain. But luckily this day on the North Coast, it wasn't raining. It was a beautiful day for her to get her wedding pictures taken. And the streams in North Carolina, where I used to live, in western North Carolina, look very much like the streams in Yangmingshan. I love the streams, the beauty of Taiwan. And you know, this plant, this fern, was around, not this particular plant, but that plant was here when the dinosaurs were on the earth. It's an ancient fern plant. And I love the art of farming. Isn't that beautiful? That's in Yunling Xian. But I took that from a church window right next to a rice field. And then I talked to Americans about the wonder of the fruit of Taiwan. The wonder of the fruit of Taiwan. So the second question, what is my favorite Taiwanese fruit? Mango. Okay, she gets the book. Mango. Okay.
Mamusi, you gotta choose us in the back, okay?
Okay, I need to look back there. Yeah.
Right?
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. And then I talk about the beauty of the flowers. I love to grow flowers, and I had a beautiful flower garden at Taiwan Seminary in front of my house. And a snake appeared in the men's dorm on the pillow of one of our men students. And I don't know know why, but they all assumed that snake came from my garden. So I was in Tainan on a Monday. I came back to my garden Monday night. 15 years of plants were just gone. And I don't know why they thought the snake came from my garden, but anyway, when I go back in a week, I get to replant my garden. And I talk about the birds of Taiwan. This is the Malaysian night heron, Yelu, and that's the baby. And we ran into that baby, and he wasn't happy about seeing us, you can tell. He was calling for his mother. And you know, when I first moved to Taiwan, I lived in Taipei, and bihu, you know, the gecko, bihu. And the geckos in the north of Taiwan do not sing. Then I moved to Taidong, and the first night in my house in Taidong, I heard this sound, ki-ki-ki, ki-ki-ki. So I called my landlord, my fangdong, and I said, Fangdong, 我有问题，有动物在我的房间. I said, there's an animal in my room. And the fangdong said, I'll be there tomorrow. So he came the next day, he said, describe the animal. I said, I've never seen it. He said, well, how do you know it's in your room? Because I heard it. What does it sound like? Ki, 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 ki. He said, that's a bihu, a gecko. I said, no, geckos don't sing. He said, geckos in the north of Taiwan don't sing. In the south of Taiwan, they do sing. But I want to tell you something. Now geckos get in suitcases of people, and they ride the Gautier to Taipei. And now, in my house in Taipei, they sing, and they take note. I say, you're a southern gecko. And just the beauty of culture. My favorite thing to go see at the National Theater or Concert Hall is the Yunmen, the Cloud Gate Dance Theater. And Lin Weiming, he just retired, but anyway, it's a beautiful, the culture of Taiwan. And that's inside. And I use this to let Americans know how much Taiwanese think of education. No American dentist would put his school on the glass in front, but he not only put UPenn, he put Ivy League school. So I guess an Ivy League dentist knows how to fill the cavity better than a non-Ivy League dentist. And then this guy, look at on the right-hand side, Kevin Yao, founder of PMI. He does coaching for SATs in America. Only coach in Taiwan with perfect SAT, ACT scores. I don't know how you verify that, but that's his advertisement. And then this I always find interesting. The English Language Institute of Testing and Education. Testing comes before education. 考试比教育更重要. But the problem is that they forget everything they learned, so it's not so good. Now, I went to Duke University, and I was thrilled. Last fall, I was in Taipei on Zhongshan Beilu, and I saw my university on the side of a bus. First time I've ever seen Duke on the side of a bus in Taipei. And this is Li Yutan, Gangang Shou Li Yutan, in Hualien, preparing for the Dragon Boat Festival. And that day I was teaching at Yusan Shen Yuan, and the sun was just a beautiful day. And then now, you know, I want Americans to know about the different holidays in Taiwan. Zhongqiujie and all these different holidays that we don't have in the U.S. Yeah, the Bopomofo. Yeah. And then people ask me, do you like the food in Taiwan? I said, I don't like the food, I love the food. And my biggest shock coming back to the U.S. this time is how much it costs to eat out in the U.S. And you go to Taiwan, 100块, 吃个水饺. And they're handmade. And this was a fellowship dinner at Dicton Jiahui, Jutang Jiahui in Zhanghua. I spoke at Dicton. And they had, look what they made, handmade at the fellowship dinner at the church. Oh, 好吃. And then I tell people Taiwan is a typhoon island, right? A typhoon island. So this year is El Nino. So I'm hoping when Yang-an and I fly back and then Lulu that there's no typhoon. And then I talk about the different religions in Taiwan so Americans understand. And I say that Taiwanese are equal opportunity worshipers. They will worship any god that they think can help them. And I have a wonderful story. I was at a church, and I won't say which city in America, at a Taiwanese American church, and the pastor arranged for me to have dinner with a woman. And she had just been baptized, and the pastor wanted her to tell me her story. So she told me that she had been going to the Taiwanese Presbyterian church, and she had decided to be baptized. But first she went back to Taiwan, and she went to the Matsu Miao, the Matsu temple, and what is it, Buabe? And she asked Matsu, should I be baptized? and Matsu said yes. And then she went to Guanyin, the Buddhist goddess of mercy, and she asked Guanyin, should I be baptized? And Guanyin said yes. And then she went, who's the general with the red face? So she asked him, should I? And he said yes. So she goes back to her pastor and she said, I'm ready to be baptized. And she told him the story, and he was a little uncomfortable. He's a Taiwanese pastor, so he said, I need to go to her house. He didn't tell her, and see if she still has the Oxiang, the images of the god in her house. He went to her house, and where she used to have the goddess, she had a cross. And at the bottom, she had a Bible where she kneels and prays. He said, I'm ready to baptize you. That's a fascinating story, isn't it? And this guy tells the god anything you do or say that's bad, right? He's out there listening. And then I love this. This is put up by the local government. For those of you that can't read, it says, don't do anything bad in this neighborhood, because he knows. He's watching us. And then I say to people at the funeral homes, the big one, in Taipei, you can really understand how different religions of Taiwan understand dying. And they're right next to each other, you know, these funerals. This, unfortunately, was a Hei Dao Da Ge. And look at all that money. Now, I take a lot of trains in Taiwan, and I'm very proud of something that I accomplished last year. On most trains, this is Taitie, 不是高铁. 高铁 JU 没有问题. The high-speed rail and the subway have no problem. But the Taitie, the Taiwan rail, they announce in Mandarin, Taiwanese, Hakka, and English. But their English pronunciation of the places is not standard. It's a copy of bad foreigners' pronunciation. So I've been on these trains for 26 years, and when we arrive in Taidong, they say, we are now arriving in Taitung. Lodong, Lotong. And then they say, Banqiao. It's crazy. So I called the Taitie, and does anyone here work before? Did anybody here work for Taitie? But I called them, and they said, there are too many stations to change it. And I said, I love Taiwan, and I hate to give foreigners the wrong pronunciation, because they get off the train in Taidong, and they tell the local people, I love your town of Taitung. And the Daidang Lang say, huh? Or they ask someone, how do I get to Lotong? And they say, 听不懂,我不知道. So I called them, and then I waited a year, and I called again. And I got this man, and he said, is it pronounced correctly on the Gautier, on the high-speed rail, and on the JU? And I said, yes, they do it correctly. It's only Taitier that does it wrong. But you know, they have how many stations? Hundreds of stations around Taiwan, hundreds. So I understood it was a big job. But anyway, he said, we'll look into it. Another year, nothing happened. So I decided to write the Minister of Transportation of the national government. And he said, give us some time. This is going to take, well, now it's correct. So when you go back to Taiwan, you won't hear Taitung, you'll hear Taidong, Lodong. It's really wonderful. But I think I was kind of their problem. But I'm proud now because I said, when you go to Tokyo or Osaka, they don't say, we are now arriving in Osaka. They say, you know. This is the men's dorm at Taiwan Seminary, where Zheng Yangren Lao Shi taught for many years and where I still teach. And then this is in Tainan Shuiyuan, in their chapel. I was preaching at their worship service. I go to Tainan every Monday. I leave at 7 from Taipei and get back at 8 o'clock at night to back to Taipei. So it's bus, subway, gaotie, small train, and then walk. And then someone takes me on their motor scooter back to the train station, and then I take the train, gaotie, subway, and bus. And then I take a cab at the end. I'm too tired at night. And these are students in my class at Tainan Seminary. And you know, when I went to Taiwan, I was very grateful to learn that they had ordained women earlier than the Presbyterian Church in the USA. That the Taiwan Church had ordination of women before this church did. And I could not serve in a church that didn't ordain women, that didn't honor the gifts of all people. And I'm so thankful Taiwan does. Now this was a class that I taught at Taiwan Seminary, and the class was Following the Pilgrim God. And I wanted to take them up to Jintiangang in Yamingshan in the national park one day, and I arranged 12 stations, and at every station we would read scripture about the journey in the Bible. We would have a prayer and then sing a song. But my class was Tuesday afternoon, and every Monday night when I was coming back from Tainan, the class leader, the guy in the white shorts, would text me and he said it's supposed to rain tomorrow. So we never got to go. So the last Tuesday he texted me and he said, it's not going to rain tomorrow. So we met at the gate of the seminary. As we drove up Yamingshan, it started to pour. We got to Jintiangang and the rain was sideways rain. It wasn't coming down, it was coming sideways. And we started, the first 3 stations, they began to look at me like I expect the Israelites looked at Moses in the wilderness. Why have you brought me to this place to die? But luckily that morning, 2 pastors, a couple, came to see me and brought me cake. And you know, we have cake in Taiwan in boxes. And I cut the pieces of the cake and put it in my backpack. So we got to the 6th station, and the rain had stopped, and I gave everybody a piece of cake. But it was like the manna in the wilderness. They were revived, and look how happy they were at the end. And then in this course, every week, this is in our classroom, I'd have a student bring their shoes and put it on the table, a different student every week, to represent our journey following Jesus Christ. And then another part of what I do is working with pastors. You know, I think mission co-workers should do things that maybe the church is not doing. And our pastors are lonely and tired. So I do courses, but I also do small groups. And this was a course I did, was that last year? No, 2021. And it was during COVID, but we had a lot of pastors that came to that course. We were at separate tables because of COVID. And I just want to say, Taiwan did a wonderful job with COVID. I was so thankful to be there for 3.5 years. Actually, flying back in January, I was kind of dreading coming back. And of course, we had masks on forever. I get off the plane in San Francisco and nobody has masks. And I said, Lord, I need a little adjustment time here. I can't just... So I still wear a mask. I think coming up the other day from Charlotte, I was the only one on the plane with a mask, but I still wear a mask on the airplane. And then our Presbyterian hospitals. This is Zhonghua Christian Hospital. There's a Presbyterian hospital in Manhattan, in New York City, that is no longer related to the Presbyterian Church. But our PCT hospitals are still Christian and have a wonderful influence on staff, patients, and family members. And I still love to work with youth. When I first went to Taiwan, I worked with this Dongpai Zhonghui, the Eastern Taiwan Presbytery. And last summer, I was speaking at their conference. And a lot of these kids, I worked with their parents when I lived there. And now they're the kids of the parents that I worked with who were youth at that time. And we prayed, at the night, we prayed for each young person. And this woman on the right is a very gifted evangelist from the Taiwan tribe, Eastern Taiwan tribe. And she's musically so gifted and so good with youth. And it's so much fun to see our students kind of living into their fullness in ministry. And then often, if I go to a church, on Saturday, the pastor asks me to do training for the elders and deacons. And this is a church in Taoyuan City. And then I also have an office at the General Assembly building, Zai Zonghui, and helped with worship there periodically. And I did a worship in Holy Week, and we started on the 7th floor on the roof of the General Assembly building, and we moved to a different floor for every stage of Jesus' last week. And we were on the 5th floor where Judas betrayed Jesus, and we did it in front of a mirror. So we could see our own betrayal of Jesus. And then I like to take our pastors out in nature. This is in Hsinchu, because they live right at the church, and the pressure's great, so they need time away. And I've brought 3 groups of pastors to Montreat. The video we just saw with Zhe, I brought 3 groups of Taiwanese pastors to Montreat, and we'll bring another group next summer, next September. And in the past, we've also had Guatemalan and Malawian pastors and U.S. pastors join the Taiwanese pastors. It's really a wonderful experience. And then at these retreats, we wash each other's feet. We have time for small groups. And then every Sunday, I'm out in different churches all over Taiwan. So the next question is, how many churches have I preached in Taiwan? Okay, back row.
30. 30.
Total, over 27 years.
27 years. 100.
Well, not enough. How many?
500.
More.
700.
1,000.
No, who said 700?
700. 700. Here.
Oh, right here. Here's the last one. Do the last one.
我多少钱？多少钱？
These are 2 very healthy babies in Zhanghua. This is a church in, where were we talking the other night? In Tainan. What's the former capital of Tainan County? Xinyi. This is Xinyi Church. And that man on the right is the secretary at the church, Gan Shi. He's the Gan Shi. And when I went to preach at that church, he's the only Christian in his family. And he asked me to stay at his house. And you know that for first-generation Christians, it can be very challenging when the family does not yet believe. And he wanted me to stay at his house and to encourage his family. So the last Sunday morning, I stayed there Saturday night. Sunday morning, his dad's the one on the left-hand side. And I said to his dad, your son is very kind. And the father said, that's probably because he's a Christian. I told the son that, and the son said, my dad said that. He was thrilled. So I was so pleased just to be able to share that one sentence that his dad shared with him. And then I spent a lot of time in different, this is in Alishan. That's Sai, Yang and Sai and Hu. Yeah, this is a group, they're Bunun, but they've gone to the Zhou tribe to be pastors. And my favorite thing to do in Taiwan, that should be my other question, but it's not, is to do river tracing. To climb rivers. Suoxi, river tracing, where you climb up waterfalls. And I do it with Aboriginal youth. People from Taipei come and they have anchuan mao, they have helmets, they have wetsuits, they have special shoes. Look how the Aboriginal kids climb up. And I do it with them. And this was at the top of the river with this beautiful waterfall in Yilan, Nan'ao. That's 突然忘记他的名字the name, but you taught him too. He's relative. But anyway, that's my favorite thing to do in Taiwan. When you're river tracing, 坐溪, you can't think of anything else except getting up those waterfalls. I took a group from America, 15 people from supporting churches to Suoxi and another river, and the kids helped us. And one of the elders, the American elders, Ta Han Zhuang, he was very heavy, and he said, "I'll wait at the bottom. I don't want to give the kids too much pressure." So I told the Taiarzu boys this, and they said, "Tell him we'll help him." Well, they pushed that guy up the river. These little guys, not with many muscles, they pushed him up the river. And that night, I spoke at the Tai'er Zhonghui youth event, and I said to them, "How you guys doing?" They said, "Jiro Yodian swan." Our muscles are kind of sore, but we're doing okay. So that was beautiful, that they became our leaders. And I'll talk about that tomorrow. Those are Bunun children in Nantou. And I did a retreat for the Bunun Presbytery, and they're hunters. And they wanted me to go hunting with them at night, but there was no moon. And I said, "I'm a little concerned about this because I'm tall and there's no moon. And I'm afraid you might mistake me for a Sanju, for a mountain. So I think I'll stay at my bed and you guys go hunt." But I said, "I'll take a picture with you." And this is, is that my next question? Oh no, that's my next question. I'm a member of the Shimei Zhonghui, the Western Amis Presbytery. And they had a joint Presbytery worship service last fall and asked me to preach at it. And then the children from one of the churches sang. And I tell the Americans that they can read Aboriginal language because it's ABC. And you know, it was the missionaries who helped them translate, both Taiwanese missionaries as well as international missionaries, helped them translate their languages so they could have Bibles and hymn books. So we often, you know, there's some bad stories about mission history where they've gotten rid of culture, but in this case, they've helped preserve the culture. And then the three of the elders in that tribe, in the Amis tribe, sang, and I love their faces, you know, their faces of beauty, you know, stories of Japanese occupation, Kuomintang occupation, and then the new Taiwan. It's just wonderful to think about all they've experienced in their lives. And then I was speaking at a Tai'er Presbytery youth event on the East Coast, and one of the elders put all those kids in the back of his truck and drove those winding roads to the church. I was in Taidong at another youth event, and these two young people came to me and said, "Amusha, do you remember us?" And I said, "Well, remind me. You baptized us when we were babies." You know I've been in Taiwan a long time. That's the proof. And this is at my house on the seminary campus. And 3 times a month I have groups of pastors that come and meet at my house. And we have one rule, and the rule is what we share is not to be talked about outside. So we read the Bible together, and then we share concerns, family concerns, church concerns, and then we pray together. And it's been beautiful to see them move from co-workers. You know, we say tong gong, but I say meo gong, meo tong. That our relationship is only built on our work, and I want them to become shuling de pangyo, spiritual friends. That's my goal. And they've really, this has been going on for about 11 years, and they've become spiritual friends. And this is a group in Zhanghua, and they bring their kids too, which is wonderful. This was, you know, my name in Mandarin is Ma Yue Han. And when I went to Yushan, I used to teach at Yushan Seminary, and I was getting ready for a new course, and the secretary said, "Amusha, you have a student whose name is Ma Yue Han." So I said, "Great, give me his phone number." So I called him, and his son answered. I said, "Xin wen xia, Ma Yue Han zai bu zai?" Is Ma Yue Han there? And his son said, "No." I said, "Well, tell Ma Yue Han is looking for him." So he came to seminary, and he was a police officer, and he'd been shot. That's why he's in a wheelchair. But he came to seminary, and I said, "Ma Yue Han, if one day I don't feel well, you can preach for me, because the bulletin will already have your name." And he said, "Lao Shi bu dui." if one day I don't feel well, you can take the tests for me. But he and his wife are both pastors now. But a tragic thing about their life is their son, who had been a prodigal son, Longset, came back to the Lord and was an undergraduate at Yishan Seminary, and he and another Amis classmate were in a horrible car accident and were both killed. So now Ma Yuehan and his wife are raising their daughter, the daughter of their son, their granddaughter. This is a group of pastors from Hualien, and they've all been to Montreat. These have all been to Montreat. And this was a beautiful story. This is Yang En and I taught two of them, at least two of them, Yang En, right? Ji Hao and his sister. And his father and mother in the back there are both pastors. And I was there for the 1 month anniversary, or the 1 month blessing of his second son. And it was his father's birthday. So the whole family said words of blessing to his father. 3 days later, he had a massive stroke and now has been in a coma since then. But I was so thankful that the family blessed him. So never hesitate to bless family members and church members. We never know what tomorrow's going to bring. So when we can say words of blessing today, do it. And these are chaplains, students of Yang En and mine at McCall Hospital. And this woman is in Tainan County, and she went to Taizé with us in France. I'll talk about that tomorrow. But she had a vision at Taizé to build a retreat center in rural Tainan County. And this is what she's built. And churches come. I mean, this one small church pastor has done this beautiful, I mean, not her, with her church members, built this beautiful retreat center. And I'm going to talk about him tomorrow. So I do a lot of weddings for former students, and I baptize their children. This is one of Yang En and my colleagues who teaches Old Testament, and his wife's a pastor. I'm going to baptize their second baby when I go back to Taiwan this fall. Another of our students, he was in a horrible motorcycle accident when he lived in Hualien. He was a great baseball player. And one of his friends asked me to come pray for him. I didn't know him. This was years ago when he was at the hospital in Taipei. He'd been airlifted to Taipei, and he was paralyzed from the waist down. And I prayed for him that God would somehow use him. Years later, I was on the campus. I heard my Aboriginal name, which I'll tell you about tomorrow. And I turned around, it was him. I said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "I'm a first-year student in the Master of Divinity program at the seminary." And now he's working in the chaplaincy department at McCall Hospital. And he's a wonderful chaplain because he's walked that road. Okay, the fourth question. What is the only place in Taiwan that I have never been to? No, I've been to Penghu. Penghu, 我去过Penghu啊。金门去过。兰屿去过。Matsu, okay, right here, Andrew. Oh, Matsu, right there. I've never been to Matsu. Every other place I've been to. Talk about this church tomorrow. Yang En and I have had 6 students, and the wife first went to seminary, and then the husband was called to seminary. And now these 3 wives are the senior pastors, and their husbands are the associate pastors. So this is Lawa and Noma and their son. I baptized him. And this is Jomei and Ichie, and she's the senior pastor. And then here is Gilao. She's from the Amis tribe, and Vuruvu's from the Taiwan tribe. And she's the senior pastor, but he's now working on his PhD in theology at Taiwan Seminary and hopes to become a professor. Maybe it was Dr. Chen told me, I forget who this. Either Wang Yishan or Chen Yishan told me I should get a filter for my water. I think you told me that. And I never had a filter. I boiled my water for years. That was the great gift, because now I don't have to boil my water. But the guy who comes to change my water filter, I found out he's a Christian. It's the same guy every time. So he told me a story, and I said, "Let me pray for you." So I prayed for him and said, "Amen." And then he said, "Do it again. I want to record it on my cell phone." So I kind of felt like I was acting the prayer. But anyway, so now when he comes every year to replace my water filter, I say, Do you want to turn on your cell phone? But he likes to listen to the prayer when he goes home. And this is a great story. This woman owns a noodle shop in Banga, in Wanhua, in Taipei. And Christians started eating at her noodle shop. And they shared the good news with her. And in 2 years, she became a Christian. And then her son became a Christian. And her son, I was there one time, and often if I'm with a Christian person, I say, can I pray for you? So I asked her, she said, yes, pray for my son. He doesn't get up early enough on Sunday morning to go to church. So I noticed that he had these tattoos on his arm. And on one arm, he had a tattoo in English. And it was Psalm 23, verse 1 in English. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. So I asked him, I said, did that hurt to get that tattoo? He said, oh yeah, that hurt. I said, well, if you can endure that pain for the Lord, you can get up a little earlier on Sunday morning and go to church. And this was wonderful. Last December, or maybe it was early January, every Monday when I come back from Tainan, since I'm exhausted, I take the cab from Shilin up to the Taiwan Seminary. And this cab driver, cab drivers all over the world are great philosophers. And they know everything about politics. This guy was especially articulate. He knew everything about politics. I learned a lot of my political learning from the cab drivers in Taipei. So he was talking, and he said, I listened to a podcast done by a missionary's daughter from Taichung, American missionary's daughter from Taichung. And he said something really strange, because I used to teach preaching at the seminary. He said, this woman doesn't preach, she just shares good news. And I thought, oh boy, that's a bad testimony for our preaching. But I didn't say anything. And then we get to the seminary gate, and he said, I get ready to pay him. And he said, tonight it's free. And I said, oh, no, I want to pay you. You got to feed your children. He said, my children are growing. So he wouldn't let me pay him. And then he said to me, he turned to me, he pointed at me, and he said, Pastor, he's not a Christian. He said, Pastor, you just keep loving this world. I said, I'm going to take your picture and put you on my PowerPoint. That's the most beautiful thing anyone's ever said to me. So here's a non-Christian cab driver in Taiwan reminding me why I'm on this earth. It was just beautiful. We've done a number of Asian pastor gatherings. I was on a board of a hospital in Osaka, in Japan, and we had some money, so I used the money to do Asian pastor gatherings in Taiwan. And these three men are from Myanmar, and they're from the Chin tribe. And as you know, Myanmar right now is a very dangerous place, especially for the indigenous people, so I don't know what's happened to them. But they were wonderful Christian models for us. And as I said, I've been in 26 churches, so I'm really an ambassador for Taiwan. I mean, look, where else do you see Taiwan on an American church board? Missionary to Taiwan. They should say ambassador to from Taiwan. And then 2 weeks ago, I was in Highlands, North Carolina, and they put the map of Taiwan on the front of their bulletin, which really made me feel good. So I've been really, this is the last one, but I've been really thankful to be able to share, especially in this time of danger for Taiwan, to be able to share with so many American Presbyterians and ask them to pray for Taiwan. And they are praying for Taiwan. And they're also very interested in what is happening in the land that we love. So it's really a privilege for me to be able to do what I do. People say, are you exhausted? I say, really, I'm energized that I can go around the country and share the beauty of the land of Formosa with the people of this land. And very few people, it used to be a lot of people got us mixed up with Thailand. That was very frustrating. Do you like the Thai food? I like the Taiwanese food, but they don't do that much anymore, so that's I guess good and bad. We're in the news more, so they know more about us, which is good and bad, I guess. So. But anyway, thank you for, and any corrections I should have made in my PowerPoint? Well, thank you. And now I guess we have a time of relaxation until dinner, right? Yeah. Thank you.